I went and met the hair doctor, and he was like, he put me on this medication called Avodart. Have you ever heard of this stuff?
No.
So anyway, it's like a finasteride.
What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Something I found really interesting that was brought to my attention fairly recently is Ashton Kutcher's hair loss prevention protocol that he was on for over a decade actually. And he outlined this in an interview.
I want to compliment you. You always look good. You got good hair. I'm going to compliment your hair.
It's going a little bit though.
It's going?
Yeah,
You're losing it?
I've been losing it since. It's like, I mean, if I really get up in there, guys, I mean, it's like starting to disappear.
Right.
So when I was like 25, I noticed it was starting to go, and so I went and met the hair doctor, and he was like, he put me on this medication called Avodart. Have you ever heard of this stuff?
No.
So anyway, it's like a finasteride. The byproduct of testosterone actually causes follicles to get weaker and fall out. And so you take this stuff and it washes away the byproduct of testosterone.
Right.
But we don't know what else that might be being used for that could be good in the body. But anyways, right, so I've been like holding on to the hair pretty good.
Right.
But then when we decided that we were going to have children, I didn't know what, was it okay? Is it safe to take when you're having a baby?
Maybe you shouldn't be on that if you're trying to have a baby, yeah.
So I stopped taking the stuff about 3 years ago, and now I'm experiencing the hair loss.
Right.
It's like it's starting to go.
And, it was kind of just like, it's funny how it was just kind of, gone over like it's some like harmless thing that, oh, I was just given like this thing and it prevents, like you can tell he's not 100% aware of how this stuff actually works. He just kind of took it because his doctor told him to. I'm kind of surprised he got a prescription for Dutasteride approved for hair loss prevention in the first place. But if you actually go look at his hair in his 20s comparison to the decade that followed, it's pretty interesting because he actually did have pretty notable recession occurring, and he was well on his way to losing his hair. And then through the implementation of Dutasteride monotherapy, he was able to not only offset it significantly, but actually reverse it to a big extent, which I think it's pretty typical in most individuals. Some of my videos I feel like could come across as implying that 5-AR inhibitors aren't good or they don't work, and that's not the case at all. They're actually very effective at what they do, and for a significant majority of individuals, it's more than sufficient to stave off loss for a couple decades, perhaps even the majority of your life, until you get into old age and you start encountering just general, cellular degeneration and DNA breakdown, all this stuff that's going to probably lead to accelerated aging side effects like hair loss, regardless of the fact that you've crushed your DHT levels. There's only so much you can do for so long before you just, fall apart in general. But staving it off for decades, Dutasteride is pretty sufficient for a lot of individuals, and it definitely works. Just the fact that he's just like, openly talked about it so transparently, it was pretty surprising to me. And I was also pretty surprised that he even had a prescription for that. Most of the people who get hair loss prevention medication, they're given finasteride, or they get a transplant, or they just get a hair system. It's very seldom that you hear or see a celebrity being on Dutasteride for 10 years straight. And assuming that's all he did, granted this guy's, super rich, he could have easily had transplants without anybody being the wiser. But if it was Dutasteride monotherapy, that's really impressive. And he did state that when he came off of it because of potential concerns it would have in regards to conceiving a child, he noticed his hair just like jump right back to losing ground again. Just really interesting to look at, and real life application of somebody who you can tons of pictures to follow over the course of his career in acting, and seeing his hair in tons of different situations that are pretty enlightening for how effective Dutasteride can be on its own for many individuals, like crushing systemic DHT by almost 100% and scalp DHT by, depending on the dosage used, upwards of 50 to 70, 80% for dosages of 0.5 up to 2.5 milligrams. For many individuals, inhibiting that 5-alpha reduction in the scalp is sufficient because I guess their AR isn't sensitive enough to testosterone, the binding affinity of testosterone, and whatever miniaturization that occur from it. it's just not sensitive enough to have any significant deleterious outcomes in terms of miniaturization from that, or it's just significantly slowed down to a point that they won't experience further miniaturization or noticeable miniaturization, I should say, for another several decades. Because regardless if you crush DHT, you're going to spike your scalp T simultaneously via that inhibition. So while many people think they're just totally safe if they're on dutasteride, there's still androgens present in the scalp, which to a much lesser extent will induce the same androgenic effects, just not to a nearly as significant of a degree as DHT. And it's interesting to see his response, though. Obviously a good responder and a real life example of somebody who used traditional treatment methods and had good results with no significant adverse effects. It sounded like, at least he didn't cover any, and lived a good healthy life based on it. So obviously celebrity taking Dutasteride, I'm going to cover it in a video. Super interesting to me, and the fact that he could stave off such aggressive loss with just that just goes to show how effective inhibiting DHT systemically can actually be. Really indicative of kind of the first line of defense for many guys is probably using a 5-AR inhibitor does in fact work to very well, and for many people it's perfectly sufficient for staving off loss, pending they don't have any limiting side effects that prevent them from having a good quality of life simultaneously while using it. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you like hair loss prevention content, the science behind it, and kind of delving into how to handle it, and even in cases of aggressive loss, how to handle it, even if you're, a non-responder to 5-AR inhibitors. Subscribe to the channel. Check out my blog, moreplatesmoredates.com. Check me out on Instagram at moreplates_moredates, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Talk to you guys soon.